Did you not get the memo?
What is good, everybody? It is your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Even though Thursday's gone by, it's still tough. I know it's tough out there to deal with Bears loss. Mostly, not just because we lost to the Packers, but there's so many questions that we got to deal with. And so I brought a man on who hopefully can answer some of those questions for us. He is Bill Zimmerman from the Bears Banter podcast. He also covers the Bears for the Windy City Gridiron, so be sure to check him out on there. He's also the executive producer at Mad Dog Radio, so this man is super busy. We're not going to take too much of his time, but we want to bring him in. Bill, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, man. Still trying to get over what I saw Thursday. There was a lot of hype around this team, and it really didn't materialize. The first question I gotta put to you: we've been hearing for 5 months that Matt Nagy's offense, finally Mitchell Trubisky had a grasp of it. Finally, he was making the right reads. He was making the right plays. And finally, it was going to rival offenses like, Philly and Kansas City. And that's not what we saw on the field Thursday. So should Bears fans be concerned moving forward about this Chicago Bears offense?
Well, here's what I would say. I think there's absolutely room for concern. I think any Bears fan who watched that game should be concerned. But at the same time, I don't think Bears fans should overreact. I think there's a big difference there. Overreact meaning the Bears Twitter has basically doomed Mitch Trubisky a bust. The entire NFL has figured out Matt Nagy's offense, and the Bears are going to go like 4-12. That seems to be the attitude of Bears Twitter. I think what we saw on Thursday night was a defense that without Vic Fangio is still very strong. Mitch Trubisky's bottom 5, maybe bottom 3, maybe worst performance of his career, including his rookie year, and Matt Nagy, who appeared to have what I would say is a poor game plan, and it got poorer as the game went on. So, yeah, there's room for concern, and there should be, but let's not overreact and think that the Bears season is over after one game.
I totally agree with you. Now, I'm not a Trubisky lover. I'm not a Trubisky hater. I'm a Trubisky supporter, because if he's doing well, that means the Bears are doing well. But we heard, let's be honest, Ryan Pace moved up 2 picks to get this guy. We heard the comparisons coming out of college. We heard at the ceiling Steve Young. We heard at the floor Alex Smith. Should Bears fans be bringing those expectations down now? Is the ceiling Alex Smith for Mitchell Trubisky, or is there still that hope that he could one day be a top quarterback in this NFL?
Well, for me, I'll be honest. I'm bringing my ceiling expectations down some, because we're in year 3. And I know a lot of Bears fans want to sit there and say, oh, we'll throw out year 1 John Fox. That doesn't count because the offense was so putrid. I get that. And there's definitely room to say he did not grow as much as most rookie QBs would grow because of that offense. But he's still lining up, under center, behind center. He's still looking at defenses. He's still reading defenses. It's not like, Dowell and John Fox have zero NFL knowledge. John Fox is I know he's a defensive guy, been in the NFL forever. Dowell worked with Adam Gase. So, there was some room for growth his first year. Yes, second year, a lot of time needs to be spent learning Matt Nagy's offense. But when you have an entire second off season with Nagy and learning the offense and getting more rapport with your receivers and all your weapons, the biggest concern for me was not how Trubisky played, because I know he's going to play better than that he's not going to play worse. He's not going to play the same as that. He will play better. My biggest concern with Trubisky is that after, how many games are we talking about now? 28 games?
Yeah, this is 27. This will be 28 on Sunday.
He's still a one-read quarterback. That's the biggest concern to me. He is still not picking up second and third options. And what I really wanted to see in week 1 was that part of his game developing, because he didn't have a lot of college experience and everything that kind of went into who Mitch Trubisky is. That was going to be the last part of his game to develop, and it's not developing. So That's my biggest concern with him. So I'm sitting there going, Steve Young, well, that's a Hall of Fame level quarterback. I understand the mobility. I understand all the physical tools. I'm not going Steve Young. Look, Alex Smith's a capable quarterback, and Alex Smith at his best with a defense like that and weapons like Allen Robinson and Tariq Cohen and what I think David Montgomery would be, and hopefully what Anthony Miller will be, that's enough to win a Super Bowl in my eyes. So if the ceiling's Alex Smith, I think it still could be a little better than Alex Smith. And if you look at Alex Smith's numbers in the Andy Reid offense, they were very good. But Mitch has to start developing as, an actual quarterback, reading the defense pre-snap, making the appropriate decisions, and putting the ball where it needs to go. And that's still a concern.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. We got Bill Zimmerman here from the Bears Banter podcast, from Windy City Gridiron, from Mad Dog Radio. The man, the myth, the legend joins us here on Windy City The Breeze. Now, you tweeted out a few days ago Mitch Trubisky's career numbers on nationally televised games versus all other games. It's pretty staggering. He goes from a 1-to-2 touchdown to interception ratio and a QB rating of 64 in nationally televised games to a basically 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio and a 96 QB rating. Now, my question to you is, are the lights too bright for Mitchell Trubisky? And I'll even throw Matt Nagy in there because we've seen him kind of choke up in some of these big games. Are the lights too bright on these guys?
I don't think the light's too bright for Trubisky, and this is why I'll say that. We saw Mitch Trubisky fourth quarter against the Philadelphia Eagles. We've seen Mitch play fourth quarter in games, and he looks good. He makes those big-time throws. He's better, in my eyes, in the fourth quarter than he is in the first half. So if you're a quarterback who can play when the game's on the line and that kind of pressure, I don't think, especially in a playoff game, I don't think the lights are too bright. What I think it is, and a lot of Bears fans, that tweet did really well, and a lot of Bears fans responded, and their response to defend Trubisky was, well, that's because primetime games are against better opponents. And that's what I think it is. And that's not a defense of Mitch Trubisky, because it's not sitting there saying he's going up against, the Joe Montana 49ers or the Troy Aikman Cowboys or some of these, Elway Broncos, some of these great NFL teams. No, he's going up against top tier NFL teams that are on the field right now, and he's getting waxed by them. And that's a problem, because if Mitch Trubisky is a guy who's going to beat up on the Tampa Bays of the world and throw 6 touchdowns, beat up on Detroit, because those were clearly his 2 best games last year against 2 bad defenses. If that's where Mitch is going to pad his stats and then play poorly against top-notch opponents, well, then all the Chicago Bears are is a team that's going to make the playoffs and lose in the first round every year.
Yeah, it's really tough. When I looked at those numbers, it really took me back, because you felt, like you said, those fourth quarter drives, those big moments, you felt like, all right, Mitch is getting it. Mitch is playing well. But when you take a look back, especially games like the Rams, and you look at, he almost plays you out of games like that. And that's concerning.
That is concerning. That Rams game, based on how Trubisky played, they should have lost. That was an epic performance by Vic Fangio and that defense, and cost the Rams a Super Bowl. Because, I mean, in NFL films, Bill Belichick said, well, we're just going to do the Bears defense. That's basically what he said. And they shut down the Rams in the Super Bowl. That's how good that defense was, is that Bill Belichick copied it. Bill Belichick copied it. That's how good that performance was against the Rams. Trubisky should have lost in that game, but because the defense was so good, they got the win.
Now, like you said, that Vic Fangio defense, is amazing. And listen, he's moved over to Denver. If the Bears thought facing the Packers defense was going to be tough, they have no idea what's in store for them with Von Miller standing on the other side. And to top that off, Denver has not lost a home game in September since 2012. They're 13-0. So do you see a Bears win in Denver on Sunday?
I think it's a coin flip game. It's tough to call. I mean, after the Packer game, I said they're going to lose to Denver. after I watched the Broncos on Monday Night Football against the Raiders, I'm not so certain. That defense, even with Fangio, even with Von Miller and Bradley Chubb and everyone, did not look great. John Gruden and Derek Carr had their way with that defense a little bit. There wasn't that much pressure on them, despite the Raiders not having a fantastic offensive line. So Vic needs to figure some things out. I understand that was a road game. Broncos are going to be home. You cited the record. We know how good they are. You know, when players, opponents don't have that week in, week out grind of the season, they don't have quite as much air in their lungs, which is, I think, you know, that mile high, you know, that city, all the thin air. It's difficult for a lot of opponents. I'm hoping the Bears get out there early and try and get acclimated a little bit, because that can be a problem. But, you know, I think it's a coin flip game, because I don't think Joe Flacco is a good quarterback anymore. I think he is a bad quarterback. I think he's one of the bottom 3-4 starters in the league. He's that poor. I think Matt Nagy and Mitch Trubisky in that offense cannot play any worse than it did. And I think the defense, there's no reason to think that the Chicago Bears defense cannot shut down the Broncos offense. I don't see any reason. That's going to be a low scoring game. You would think, you know, if you're a gambler, take the under. But I don't see any reason why this game isn't a one-score game in the fourth quarter. And I think the Bears, if they play a little better offensively, they can come out on top.
Now we're coming into week 2 of the NFL season. A lot of talk from week 1 about how poorly a lot of the players that didn't play in the preseason plays. Is conditioning going to play a part in this game in Mile High? Like you said, that oxygen's very low, and it really makes it difficult on players just to play. Do you think that not playing in the preseason, maybe not being in that NFL conditioning shape, is going to play a part in this game?
I think the conditioning aspect could affect it. You know, like I said, the thin air, you know, that can be an issue, especially early in the season. But I will say this, I wouldn't put it at all about the preseason. It's just the fact that it's early in the season. The Bears starters getting, a handful of reps in the first quarter. It's not like they were going to play, you know, 3 quarters. You're talking about guys that are going to play 5 to 10 snaps. That's not going to help them in conditioning, as far as I'm concerned. You know, a lot of people like to cite that, oh, this team didn't play well in week 1. It's because they didn't play much in the preseason. But at the same time, I can cite you Jameis Winston and Ryan Fitzpatrick and, you know, and other quarterbacks and teams like that played their starters and looked lousy, and teams that didn't play their starters and won in week 1. So I don't think there's any correlation in the preseason about, you know, preparedness or conditioning. But I do think because it's early in the season and the Bears players aren't as well conditioned as they will be in November, that it could bite them if they're not careful. That's why I said I'm hoping they plan to go out there early. I haven't heard anything one way or the other. You know, get 2-3 days of practice in the thin air, get the bodies acclimated a little bit to it.
We've got Bill Zimmerman here with us on Windy City The Breeze. Be sure to check him out at the Bears Banter podcast and on the Windy City Gridiron, covering the Bears. One more question for you, Bill, and then we'll let you get out of here. Even though it is early in the season, not a lot of 0-2 teams make the playoffs. Do you view this game as a must-win for the Chicago Bears on Sunday?
I don't. Obviously, it would help them a ton if they win, but I've kind of had an attitude since the schedule came out and kind of looking at it. And I know a lot of people sit there and go, oh, this schedule's brutal. Schedule's hard. Schedule is not as impossible, I think, as people are making it out to be. But it is more difficult as the year moves on. All I want the Chicago Bears to be is 3-2 into the bye. They got obviously a tough game here at Denver. The Redskins, it's on the road, but that's not a great football team. Vikings at home, they usually fare pretty well with the Vikings at home. Raiders in London, obviously that's a winnable game. Khalil Mack's going to have 17 sacks in that game in the revenge game. So those are 3 winnable games. So if they go 0-2, I could still see them win 3 straight out of the, out of 2 losses here and get to 3-2 into the bye. And at that point, then you got momentum. The team's feeling better, and and the playoffs will be at least within grasp. So I don't think it is a push the panic button if they lose this one. Now, if they lose and the offense looks the same as it did against the Packers, push the panic button and throw your hands up in the air, because I at that point, then I don't know what to expect from this team. But obviously, you'd like to get the win, because 1-1, is a huge step and gives them a little wiggle room in case they falter to, the Raiders in London. Those are weird games a lot of times. Who knows? Or it opens the door for them to be 4-1, where that awful loss to the Packers will be well in the rearview mirror. So I'm looking at it as an important game, but not a must-win game.
Yeah, it definitely helps if you get that W, especially going into Washington, because they are a complete mess over there. But, Bill, we want to thank you for joining us here on Windy City The Breeze. You can find Bill on Twitter. You can find him on iTunes and SoundCloud at Bears Banter. He's doing so much stuff with the Bears, so if you are a diehard Bears fan, like we are here at Windy City The Breeze, go check him out because the content is always great. Bill, want to thank you for joining us, man.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it. Hey, thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it.